Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. I see there's Kathy or Kathy's here. Martina is here. Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me, can see me. Give me a thumbs up or let me know in the chat if you can hear me and see me before I talk forever and no one hears me or sees me. Let me know. But on my side, I think it works. I hope it works for you too. Happy Saturday, everyone. So awesome. Thanks, Kathy. I hope you have a wonderful or had a wonderful day. It's also 7 p.m. here, and I'm glad so many of you could join me today, because today the topic is something that I see a lot of people are skipping, not just beginners, but also some people who have been painting for a while, and it's not even just for watercolor. It's a very important step in the painting process, and because I'm teaching watercolor painting, I've been doing this for many years, and I have a monthly membership all about watercolor painting, where we talk about techniques, skills. You have monthly live painting classes, and this is where we always talk about, okay, how do we create our own painting? Where do we start? What do we need? What skills? What techniques? So today I decided it would be a great continuous a next lesson. So if you've been following along, we had our episode number 1 where we started really setting ourselves for success. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, you can always catch them on my Facebook or on YouTube, depending on where you're watching. In the second episode, we talked all about breaking into our supplies, and also talking about how to avoid overwhelm, how to get into the zone, having just fun and removing any fear or doubts about putting paint to paper. And in today's episode number 3, we're going to talk about, okay, let's intentionally paint our painting. So, and like I said in the beginning, this is a step that a lot of people are skipping, because I know it's so, we're so excited to start painting. We maybe see a beautiful reference and we want to start painting, and then halfway in the process you might notice, wait a second, I forgot this one, and this looks off. What should I wait? Like, all of a sudden it feels stressful, because now you have to make decisions on the fly, and we have a reference, but if you haven't planned out maybe the composition or the colors or techniques that you need, it will become stressful. And I think this is where a lot of people are struggling with that, or feel like watercolor is so stressful and unpredictable, because often they make the mistake of just kind of like going with the flow, which is also great. But with watercolors, if you want to really like recreate a specific painting or from a reference, you want to plan ahead, so you not feel scattered, stressing, but you know where you're going. And even if something doesn't work out, or maybe you paint and then realize, wait a second, I think I like this better, it's easier to then adjust than just like wandering and flying like with being so scattered and worried about, okay, what should I do now? And then everything dries. It's not like with oils or acrylic or drawing or something like that, where you can take time to just like think about it and maybe go away, come back, continue painting. With watercolors, it's as soon as you put paint to paper, things starts drying, and this is where you then have to really, you don't have time, not that much time, so you need to have a plan. So in this episode today, I brought a picture, and this is one of the projects that we actually did inside my watercolor membership. And this will be maybe some of you, I think some of you, I saw Julia was here, I believe. Julie, I think you joined. I think I saw you join a while, not so long ago. But I think some of Atilis also like joining from time to time here as well. But this is one of the projects that I chose a while ago. I think maybe it was last year, I don't remember. And it's a great way to start thinking about, okay, because this reference, you have so many options. So let me show you, let me switch to the reference. I think I have it also already started. Like, so if you want to follow along, because it's so easy just to watch, and it feels like, yeah, I'm making progress and I'm getting better. It's like going to the library and take math books for practice, for maybe you have an exam, and you already feel like, just because I borrowed the books from the library, I'm so much smarter now in math, which is like our brain tricks us. So I encourage everyone to just start sketching, just really simple sketches. So you might need just printer paper, a pencil that you have. It can be a marker. Pencil is great because you can erase if you want, but it's just having fun and planning and sketching. And we're not drawing, so don't worry. You don't need to be able to draw for that. It's just literally just scribbles. So we all can do that, and it's not about having a drawing masterpiece at the end. It's really just about getting our ideas onto paper and seeing on paper what works better, what might not be the best idea, what can we change. So prepare some paper. So I have like some just regular paper. You can print a paper, a pencil, and let me switch to this here. So let me move this away. So this is the reference that I chose. Is, you can see here, this is a very tiny one. I also have my tea here, so in case you see what's this weird shadow, I hope you can see it. Let me see. Okay, so, and here we have this is a beautiful lavender field that I found. So it was from a reference I used last year in my membership. And if you like here, I mean, this is a very specific reference because you can see that it's elongated, right? It's so wide, and you don't really see, like, is it a portrait format? It's a landscape. It's like a very wide landscape format. And if you would start painting, you might maybe paint too much that you don't actually need. So that's why I chose that, to really talk about like what can be actually, paint here or draw. And let me switch back again, because I wanted to also I'm not sure why it's not here, but that's okay. So you don't see me here. For some reason, the camera is not, doesn't turn on here, but it's fine. All right. So as you follow along, you can always like look at the reference that you have, and you can start thinking about, okay, where do I start? Like, what do I want to capture? Because sometimes it's so easy to just see a reference and feel like, oh, this is great, and start drawing or painting, and then realize there's just too much going on. Like, there's too many details. This is where it happens, that we just get caught up in all the details, and then it's too much, and then we overwork at the painting. So it's better, in my opinion, just to keep it simple and really just focus on the main things. So before we start with like drawing or sketching out the painting that we want to paint, so we will follow like this project or this lavender field. We will be working on for the next few live streams. So today we're going to plan out the idea. In the next episode, we're going to test out different techniques, and then in the third one, we will then actually paint a simple, beautiful lavender field using whatever we discussed today, next week, and the following week. So it all builds up. So it'll be great if you want to follow along, because then you'll have to have everything, see how everything comes together in your painting. So the first thing that I like to decide is which format do you want to paint, capture. So do you want it to be a portrait format? Do you want it to be a landscape format? Because depending on that, you will capture different things. So if, for example, if we decide, okay, let's do landscape. So landscape format would be just what you see here. It's just this rectangle shape, right? And then you can also make it slightly elongated. So for example, you can make it slightly wider. Maybe not that wide as in the reference, but slightly elongated. You can even make it, cut this off even, so make it even like in the movie, right? So we have these white black frames here, and then you see the scene here. It just creates more space, so it looks like a wider angle where you can see more, and it just elongates the whole scene. So you can see the difference. It's a little bit more compact, and this is a little bit more elongated, and this is a great format to, for example, capture like a field, because then you can really capture the width or how wide everything is, and just capture the atmosphere even. So this is why it's important to think about that, because even the format can make a painting sometimes feel a little off, because just the framing is just not that, it just not doesn't work as well as it could. So sometimes I change just the format and I'm like, okay, this is much better. I didn't change anything, I just changed how I frame the painting. So I cut off maybe some section where I repainted in a different format. So we have these landscape formats, and then we also have similar, just like portrait format. So I could put, but I think we don't have much space here. So a portrait format is just, you just flip it like that, so you get portrait format. So it's just slightly flipped like that. And here also you have different versions. So you can have a version that is slightly elongated. So here, and also you can either draw it slightly more narrow, or cut off these areas that I did on top. So this is a little, maybe to make it more, you can see it better. I'll draw this slightly similar. So these are the same, slightly, or like relatively the same, but this is a regular portrait format. And here, if I remove these parts here, so imagine I just cut this off, or I don't paint them, maybe I taped it off. I use maybe this paper as my watercolor paper, and I paint it as a portrait format. I can just tape down or tape off, was how I say that, these sides, and then I only paint in this section here. So you have again a portrait format, but one is slightly more elongated. So even though I didn't change the paper size or anything like that, I use less space, and I have a more elongated paper. It's just almost like a optical illusion, I guess, similar to here, like in the movies, like you have these black frames, and it looks like you just focus on the scene here. And in this case, it's not like, I mean, maybe it's in a Instagram reel. I don't know if it works like that. I don't think so. It will, I don't know, it would feel weird if it's have the same effect, but maybe I would need to test. But for painting, you can use that also for specific things, because depending on that, you can, here for example, you can capture a field or water or just space, whatever you're painting. Like you capture the space here, you might capture the height of something, or a path, like maybe it's a very long path and you want to capture it, so you elongate that. So you tell a story that maybe you walk some mountain, or some mountain, and then you reach some building here on top, and then this is like your path and you just walk there, and it's just like this difficult climb or something like that. And here you have this more calm, more I don't know, some calm field where you're I don't know, I'm just randomly draw something here where you're like, okay, this is a wide field and it's open. Here you climb, like you even like get a different feel from that, right? Like you, depending on the angle, depending on the format, you get a sense of calmness, maybe stillness, maybe some spacious feeling. And the other one, it feels like maybe heavy, more like you're working towards something. You tell a story how you walk towards that building, for example, or towards that area. Or maybe you capture, it could be also a specific object where you just want to capture the sky or something like that. You want to give the sky more space, so you elongate it maybe, and there's like maybe a tower or something like that. So there are multiple ways how you can do that, and that's why it's important to plan ahead a little bit so you know where you're going. And for this one, we could play around. Like you could, for example, if we want to paint a lavender field, it really depends on what do you want to capture in lavender field. Like if it's a lavender field, it might look off if it's like you have an elongated portrait format, but you can always test it out. So for example, let's just imagine we have yeah, I'll keep it here and I just use a separate ones just so we have a little bit more space if we decide to draw multiple. So for example, in this case, we have, let's do like maybe 3 on top. So just like rectangular. This could be even, doesn't even have to be so elongated. You can make it slightly shorter. And again, see, like it doesn't have to be even all straight, perfect lines. So I will use 3 for now. If I need more, we can draw more. This is almost like a storytelling. Like in storytelling, like when they shoot a movie, they don't just go on set and start filming. They draw, sketch some shots and angles. Where do they want to film, so they don't like waste time and money on the filming day thinking about such things. So they do this in advance. So in this case also, like we want to kind of think about what we want to capture and what works best. And we can test it out before we commit to painting something, before we put paint to paper. We can just think about that. And this is a great way to just do it whenever, for example, you feel you might not have as much time to paint, but you want to make progress. Just divide the steps in smaller steps where you can, okay, today I'm just planning out, like I will just plan and then decide which version I will paint. And then maybe the next day or the next, whenever you have the time, you can then put paint to paper. So in this case, we just plan ahead and just think about, okay, what do we want to capture? And when you have a reference, remember that with a reference, you can always decide what you want to capture. Just because this is the reference doesn't mean you need to like capture the same way or like what you see. So for example, in this one, like this is zoomed in, so you can see how we have this beautiful building. We have, actually when you zoom in, you see maybe there's a bridge or something like that. And I could even like move this like that, and you can just like capture just the bridge. Maybe it's like this is actually a beautiful place and you want to capture that. Maybe it has a specific color, maybe it's white, maybe it's red or something like that. In this case, it's a little bit in the background, so it might not be the best like main focal point of what we want to capture. So I might zoom back in. And then you can also, okay, maybe this part, maybe if I remove this part, so maybe my like this building could be in the focal point. Maybe something on the right is something interesting, because like here, for example, there's nothing really happening. If you look really, like there's nothing much happening. There's just trees and lavender field in front. Like there's nothing really that's I would say, worth capturing. So that's why you can like really crop the reference and see, is there anything that is, like, speaks to you, which element do you like, and go from there. So you can even decide where do you place the elements. And this is important because you want to decide, okay, what do I actually want to capture in my painting? What's the main thing? Because if you capture everything, then nothing really is important, because we captured everything and the viewer doesn't really know what to look at because you captured everything and there's all the details. So you can decide, okay, what's the main thing? And one of the things that I like to start out with, just to even like, just testing it out, is I like to use my composition as my guide. Like I use the rule of thirds. So rule of thirds is basically you divide the area the format that you selected into 9 sections. So, and then these 9 sections are created by creating horizontal lines and vertical lines that are equally spaced out. So for example, in this case, I can add them here. So I have 3 sections now. So 2 lines that are like roughly the same space in between. And then here as well. So 2 vertical lines. And the same here. I just continued the same way. And these doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to use a ruler for that. It's just roughly. And you can always tweak it depending on, because sometimes when you have, for example, an elongated format, you might use, sometimes I use the rule of fourth and divide it in fourth, like in 4 sections instead of 3. So, but to keep it simple, we can keep it like that. Also here. Now, this is important because the most important thing, or the thing that I feel like is the thing that I feel like makes the painting a little click less is when you put some, for example, your horizon line somewhere in the center of your painting. It looks like it's just, the balance is kind of off. Even if it's in the center, it feels like it's symmetrical and perfect. It just feels like there's something off. And you can still test it out and see how you feel. Maybe you totally love the way it feels and looks. So it's really just about understanding the principles, and then you can always decide how you use it. So it's not like a law or something like that your paintings need to follow exactly this all the time, and if it's not, they're just all off. It's more about some framework, framework that you can then tweak depending on if it speaks to you, if not, like what is exactly that's, because if it's like, if you just randomly do things, you don't have any anchor points to work with where you feel like, okay, this is slightly off, or maybe I can change it a little bit, so it's bad, because it's just, you don't feel like you have a sense of framework to work with, or anchor points, like I said. And the next thing is deciding, okay, what do we want to capture? Do we want to capture more of the sky? Do we want to capture more of the field or something like that? In this case, we can test it out. So we can, for example, say, let's imagine we want to capture the sky more. And so this means that we will give the sky more space. So for example, 2 sections. So let's say the 2/3 will be the sky, and this will be our horizon line. So this will be the field area. So let's say this is the field. And then the other one, we say, okay, let's see how it looks if we have a field that is, maybe the field is more in the focus. Then let's give it 2/3. So for example, here. So this is the field and this is the field. And the third one, we can decide how we want to incorporate. Like I feel like we could have even 4. You can put one other here. and the other one will be also here, because maybe we tweak where we put the house maybe also. So in this one we can also put on the bottom, and here on 2/3. So again, this is the field area, this is 1/3, and here's 2/3, and here as well, this is 1/3 of our rule of thirds, and here's a 2/3, and here as well. So we can also have one for the field, and this is the other one is just the bottom part. And this is where you can then decide, or if you see, like even like here, you can even divide it in half and see how it looks. To see, maybe dividing the painting in half will look better, but this is more about a starting point, then you can always tweak as you go. So here, let me see. Okay, do you have any questions so far? I know it's because it's a live stream, you can always ask me questions, so if there's something unclear, let me know, and I address that or answer the question you might have. So the next thing is we can think about, okay, where do we, because it's a lavender field, we can also decide, do we want the field to move into the way it looks in the reference? So basically everything goes, like the lines in the field go towards the left. Maybe you want to move it to the right. Maybe you want it, again, the most important thing is, I think, to not stay away from the middle point if you can. I mean, sometimes it makes sense to place the object like really in the center, but sometimes it looks a little off when it's in the center. So for example, if I would let's say this is my thumbnail sketch, and I put my horizontal line, so my horizon line in the center, and then all my lines go into this, like into this section. And sometimes it does make sense, like sometimes it looks good because it maybe tells a story, and this is how it just makes sense. But I always encourage everyone to test it out and see, maybe if you really tweak it a little bit, where you move maybe the line up and place the line, for example, into this direction, so every line goes like that, like using the rule of thirds. So this is my 2/3 section, and this is where I place my vanishing point of these lines, right? So and you kind of like have, maybe it captures now the movement, like maybe it feels like you're passing by on a train or something like that, instead of just standing in front of the field. And here also we can see if we move it downwards. So again, I'm dividing it into my thirds, so this is just like that roughly, and I put it here. I could also do the same here and put my vanishing point into this section, and then I have my building here and stuff like that. So it really depends, because you can see you can tell a different story. And the rule of third is not just for dividing the sky and the bottom part, like the field or something like that. You can also place the main or focal point of your painting or reference into these sections. So these are these intersections. So these ones and these are your kind of like the focal point areas where you can place anything that is important that you want to highlight, or something that is, so you have a balance. So again, you don't place something right in the center, and you also have the horizon line in the center. You want to always kind of like put it either on the left side or on the right side, and depending on, again, the story, you might say, I'm entering the scene and I want the viewer to look at maybe the left side first and then go to the right. Maybe if you put a tree on the left, it will look like you're coming from the left side, and you look behind the tree and see a beautiful castle standing here. So it's really about, okay, what's the story? What do you want to highlight? How do you want the viewer to experience the painting? So that's why you have these sketches where it's just literally just squares and then rectangular shapes, and then dividing it into these smaller sections, and then figure out, okay, let's test out this idea. So this is the field, and then maybe we can put now the, for example, in the back we have also mountains, so we could also have our mountains slightly here in the back, and then for example here could be our, on the left side could be this building, and keep it very simple. And we can also make the mountain slightly bigger or taller, and then we also have like some of these trees, so I'm just keep it very simple, just like zigzags and things like that. So similar to the reference. And then here we can use again this point as the vanishing point, meaning all the lines that you see, like all these rows of lavender areas, field, they all lead towards this section. So all the lines go into this. So again, you don't draw them like randomly like that. It's not a roof. It's what it looks like it goes all the way down. We actually follow this perspective we have with this vanishing point here. And again, I have a whole lesson inside my membership all about perspective and composition, things like that. So I want to not overwhelm you here. And one thing I also avoid is putting those lines in the corner. So I try to keep away from that. Meaning I don't go draw my line through this corner of my page. And here we can test the same idea. Put again the house here in this section. And again, try to keep it there in this, and you can see how all the lines feather out, and you see less and less detail as they go up. Here also, technically, we don't really see that. As you see in the reference, all kind of blends together, so we don't see those rows. But this is just like, for example, just to showcase how it will look like if you have, let's say, you decide to draw something with rows and things like that. You don't want to draw them, like I said, in the center, then you have the building here, and then you have like lines, like it doesn't look like a field now. We want to have actual perspective lines, and they're all like in the street. If you stand in the front of the street, you'll see how the street like just leads into one point in the distance. So this is that's why we have this point here. And it will also we will see that because these lines here get wider as they get closer to the viewer, we get a sense of depth as well. Hey Kathy, nice to see you. Kathy Perry. Yeah, and the next thing is here we can decide, okay, because I feel like this is there's too much field in this section. I think I'd still prefer this one. And like I said, you can also really just use this section here, even like cut this off, these parts, and this on top, and just have a little bit more elongated scene. So maybe if like this one, I can elongate a little bit. Or actually, let me show. Let's see. I taped this away, and this one as well. Maybe even more. I would just need to move my line a little bit. So this is, let's say, this is my elongated frame or format. I'll still divide this section now into my thirds, so somewhere here. So if I use the rule of thirds and I have my elongated format, I still I think those away, and then divide the section in my yeah, this is what I use for my rule of thirds, not the whole page. Here again, I can then place this row onto the lower third and place my building here, for example. I will do the same thing. Let me move it to the right side. And then there's this mountain in the back, and then I have my lines for the field. And I think I'll do the same here as well. So this will be this section only. I elongate that. And I divide these into my horizontal lines and vertical lines to find my rule of thirds grid. And here I have my, again, my field. So this is the field area. I have my mountains. And I could place the building here now again. And I have my rows. And it's basically, you just think about what's the story, because now, if like even that now, I don't think it makes sense to even use the portrait format, because we could test, like, let's say we could put the house here, the mountain in the back somewhere, but it will just look, it would look, maybe if we like flying over the field or something like that. Or maybe if we want to make it look like we actually lie in the field, like maybe we lie on the ground and we want to capture somehow the I don't know, like the lushness of the field or something like that. But then you have to have like painted in a different way. So maybe we'll have the lavender field like somewhere here, and yeah, it will be a completely different reference. Because from this reference, it's hard to just copy it, or because this is where we would need a different reference for the angle to actually see how it would look. Because this is look like we are flying over the whole field. If you want to like really like lay on top or like in the field and look up and capture kind of like the distance between us and the building. But I think will be already a completely different experience. So this is why it's so fun to just like not see as a painting, oh my gosh, the reference is so difficult, there's so many details, I need to copy and paint everything, I don't know where to start. You actually get to be like, okay, you get the director, the storyteller, where you just simply think about, okay, this is a reference, okay, why did I even choose this reference? What do I like about this reference? What do I want to capture from that reference? And you start very small, like just really tiny drawings. You can use, you don't even have to use your watercolor paper, you can use printer paper and just draw these rectangular shapes and decide, okay, I feel like this is too much field, this is too much, like let me test out if I remove some of the field. Okay, now I have a lot of space in the sky. Maybe I can introduce some clouds. Maybe I want to tell a story with the clouds a little bit. So for example, we could like use this. I like what's a little elongated, and in this case, like also one thing is, remember that when we look at the reference or at the painting or whatever we see in front of us, like a painting for example, we tend to look at the top left and then go to the right and then to the bottom left and bottom right. So we kind of like automatically look at certain specific elements. So when you want to tell your story, maybe you want to lead the viewer's eye and say, okay, I want them to feel like they're moving into the scene. Maybe they are experiencing the painting at first here, and then the last thing they see is this area. So I don't want to overwhelm you. I have a whole lesson on that inside of a membership, but like just thinking about, like, it's actually fun to be the storyteller and the visualize, okay, what am I want to tell with this reference or this painting, and test out the idea. So I think I really like the idea of like I said, the elongated format, and then maybe the field again is somewhere here, or we can make it slightly elongated and place the field on top. And then have, let's say the building is here, like in the reference. It's a little small, like I hope we can still see what I'm doing here. It's just like the same thing that I already showed you, and just making it slightly more clean here. And the other one is here, the building is here, mountains in the back, and then we have our, oops. So I kind of like, yeah, I actually like this one. And then the other thing is you can always test it with paint and see, maybe with paint it looks even better than for just a drawing. So once we have that, we can also like plan around, okay, what else do we want to, like, what do we actually see still like in the reference? So for example, like I said, we still have so much space here. We could introduce clouds, like maybe like some clouds that are also moving towards the building. And we move the viewer's eye to this section. So let me draw it slightly larger so it's more visible. I wanted to make it more elongated. And then the rule of thirds here somewhere. This is the field area. So it's not in the center. The rule of third really helps to kind of like move elements a little away from the center. And then the rule of third also has these sections here. And I place the building here in this intersection where this grid meets. You can also keep the building very simple, like just square and triangle or something like that. And then we have mountains in the back. And we also have trees in the back. So this is another thing. When we sketch out, we can look at, okay, we have the mountains in the back and we have some trees in the foreground, or not the foreground, but like in front of the mountain. So this is where, these are my trees. We also have some pine trees, or yeah, it's not. Yeah, I think these are pine trees that look like pine trees or similar trees. The roof is here, and then we have they all kind of lead towards that building. So again, these are the lines where we help the viewer to really lead the viewer's eye into this direction. And here you can, this is where it's like not as visible anymore. Even here, this is also not as visible. Like if you look at the reference, you see that the lines are not as, they blend together. They're not, the rows are so close to each other that you don't see these like separations. And then we have like the clouds if you want to add them. You can also make it slightly larger, as in make the building more close, like don't need to be like this tiny that I did here in my sketch. And again, like you don't even have to worry about like drawing it in like perfect way. You can even like literally just add the roof like very simple, like that. Just like don't worry about any like perspective right now. It's just like thinking about, okay, where do I place things? Just like for like simplicity. Like if there's like really like, because in this case you can see the building from different sides. So this adds a second kind of like element to thinking about. But to keep it simple, it's literally just just thinking about the concept of where do I place my elements in my painting, and then you can add all the other things. And here again, this is it's more zoomed in, this is more zoomed out, and here again you can also, like I said, add like some clouds if you want, just to make it more interesting. And again here, because we have multiple elements, you can also start like maybe like using some like values as in light and dark areas of your painting. And right now, if you look at the reference, it's all colors. So if you, for example, switch it to a black and white version, this is not this one, this is the black and white version, you can see that we have the field is slightly gray, then the building is much lighter, and then trees are darker. The lightest area is really the house and the sky, and then everything else is darker. So we have the field is like this mid-gray. The sky is also not super, like it's not just white, there's some gray in it. But if you just simplify it and to make it just maybe one to three or four variations. So let's say this is the white. This is white, this is a little bit gray. This is slightly more gray. This is the darkest. You can stretch it even more than that. But if you go back and make this like our reference, you can keep the sky light, like maybe like white. We can keep the building white for now, and then we can have our field. Slightly grayer. You can also have a slightly gray our mountains in the back because they're in the distance, and then in the front we have our trees that are closer to us, so we see them better, and also they're darker, so they stand out. You can see the difference now, so it's not just all blends together. And we have maybe the darkest area, or also we have these elements in the field. It's also slightly darker. And then we have maybe like super dark like elements where we have some very dark trees and elements poking out. So this is kind of like the idea of very simplifying the reference and just planning out your painting. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to paint everything and I see so many elements, so many details, I don't know what's going on. What should I focus on? You can literally start with the format. You decide, do you want to use a portrait format, a landscape format, depending on what you're painting, what makes sense, because a portrait format might make more sense when you draw something or paint something where you need more space on top, or it's a building or something like that, or you want to highlight a path that is long and you want to capture the story, how you walk towards it or something like that, like in the beginning I showed you. Or you make it more elongated like that, and like so you want to capture kind of like this the whole scene more, like even more elongated that I did here, and divide it into equal sections. So using the rule of thirds, we can divide it into, or even like rule of the fourths, like I said, like you can even like decide maybe you want to have more space for the field or less space for the field, and roughly, like you don't need to measure it out perfectly. And even this one we can test out. You can put it maybe here, slightly lower than the rule of, like, so it's slightly more than 1/3 or 1/3. And then this is also divided into equally or roughly equally vertical lines. This means that I'll put maybe this building here, and then the mountains here. So this is the mountain in the back. This is slightly lighter. This is slightly darker trees in the foreground. And then we have the field. And then we have our leading lines that make it look like all lines go towards it. So the viewer look, okay, this is, maybe there's something interesting in this building and we should go there and check. And then there's the trees. So yeah, it's really fun to think about that, because you get to be the storyteller. You can use a reference, because sometimes the reference are also not as great. Like you can get caught up in finding the perfect reference, and you can't really find, because there's always something off, like something that is you wish is slightly different about it. So you can spend hours looking through it. So you can, if you find something that, yeah, I really like that, you can literally just like move it around, decide, okay, maybe I want to really focus like that. Maybe this is also roughly rule of third, where I have 1/3 is the building with the mountains in the sky a little bit, and then 2/3 is the field. So you have more field in front of you, or you can decide, okay, I actually want maybe I changed a little bit and I have more, like maybe move it like this, so I have less of the field. And because it's a rough, like a picture, it's you can't you won't be able maybe to capture it the same way as you would draw. So when in a drawing, you can really move things around even easier in trying to fit the reference into something that you want. You can zoom out again, make it like smaller, and this is where you can then, okay, maybe this is a good angle, or maybe I should change it. So I'm just really moving the reference and finding the angle that I like, because this is look like we going to the right, this is we go straight towards it. Yeah, it's just like really fun to play. I'm just like getting creative with that, because the whole creative process is not just in the painting process, but actually in the figuring it out, planning, and getting curious about, like, should I keep it this way or that way, and just playing around. Because like I said, like the least interesting could be where you just place something like really in the center and everything just leads in the center. It's like it's almost like counterintuitive. You want to make it symmetrical and even, and you put it in the center and stuff like that, but it might not be as pleasing to the eye and as powerful in storytelling as if you would like place it somewhere to this side, for example, where it feels like, okay, now it's just like feels like I know where I'm looking at, where everything goes, where do you lead me to look at, and this is the center again. Like there's it feels like there's too much happening immediately. Like you don't know what to look like. It's a little, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you look at this where it's everything in the center. All the lines lead into the center. We have the building in the center. Is it more overwhelming to you than if I would put it everything like that? Like just even like slightly to the right, or even like this. What do you feel? Like do you feel the difference? So again, like we can move it around. Like this is the center part, and this is where I move it just slightly to the left. And it feels like it's I know what to look at. I know what the main focal point is. I'm not overwhelmed by everything that's around, and I feel a little uneasy when I look at just like the center like that. I feel a little calmer when it's a little like that. Like that, like there's some structure where I know where to look at, and it's like more even though it's little more to the right or to the left and not in the center anymore. Yeah, so the mixing, I think this is we can do next time. It's just also part of the preparation where you think about like techniques and colors and things like that. But I think the topic of just composition is already such a important aspect, where because when you have even like those thumbnail sketches where you have just like the gray, white, you can already kind of think about where do you, because this is also important to know, because then you know, okay, which is my lightest area in my painting? Is this the sky? Is this the field? Where do I start? Because then you because the watercolor, you want your plan ahead, because it's not as easy to come back with lighter colors and put it on top. You can, of course, you can use more opaque paint, but it's much more difficult to, not that much difficult, it's just like with watercolors, you need to work in from light to dark. Usually with acrylics or oils, you can always like build from dark to light, and even then you can still add dark or light again, because they're opaque paints. With watercolors, you want to use the white of the paper and really think about the steps, because it's, you want to, well, where's my lightest area? What do I need to preserve? Because if you treat watercolor as it's like as if it's acrylic or oil, it won't shine as much as it could, because the beauty of watercolor is that it's transparent. And yeah, of course you can make it not transparent and things like that, but the beauty it comes through when you use the white of the paper and let the pigment shine and glow. And this is actually what we will talk about in the Paint to Paper challenge next month. So I have the link in the description box below, so stay tuned for the challenge next month, where I'll really walk you through like how watercolor actually works. Because I often see so many people, they use watercolor as acrylics, as oils, and it doesn't look like a watercolor painting in the end. It looks more like acrylic or paint by numbers, and it's actually hard to tell if it's acrylic or not. Sometimes I'm like, is it acrylic? And they say, no, it's watercolor, because they use it in the wrong way. And because you use it in the wrong way, it's hard to also capture the reference in a more realistic way, because everything is just cluttered, it's dark, we don't have lighter areas, or it's just all over the place. So that's why we started with this thumbnail sketch, to get an idea, okay, what's my main thing? If it's my main thing, how can I make it stand out? How much space do I give it? Where do I place it? Do I place it in the left, to the right? Do I put it on top, on the bottom? Even like you can feel it yourself, like before you start painting, you can feel, does it click for me? Do I feel it's inviting, or does it feel like I'm leaving that place? So because I had this instance where it was also a class inside my membership where we painted also a building and a tree, and it was like, I always feel like there's something off about this. Like the painting is beautiful, but I feel there's something off. And it was literally because I placed the building and the tree in the opposite way. So it felt like I'm leaving that place. That's why it felt like weird, because it felt like I'm leaving. I wanted to make it look like I'm getting into that place, like I'm entering that scenery, but it didn't feel this way. And then I flipped it, and now it made sense. Like you can literally also, like for example, if you're not sure, you can also use the sketch and then stand in front of the mirror and see it as the opposite side. Like maybe it clicks more for you when you see the opposite version of what you planned out. And then you can draw it again, like in the outline and the composition that you liked better. Because this is where you get to feel, or get a sense of, am I going in the right direction, or should I switch things around a little bit? And then once you have the composition, what feels like, actually I like it. It feels good to me. It feels like elements are in the right spot. Like even now, maybe you followed along and you feel like, I don't know, it's still not clicking for me. Just take some time. Maybe remove some of the pencil lines. Maybe they're just too distracting. Just keep it very light, and maybe test out maybe some wider angles, some more narrow angles. Maybe you zoom in, maybe you zoom out, and you can test it out with other reference images as well, just to see what you can create with them. And there are lots of different ways how you can create compositions, and this is just one. I have a ton of different ones inside Teal, my watercolor membership, but I just wanted to show you how, with just a simple tweak where you just move things around just a little bit to the side, a little bit up, and it just makes it so much better. And it's not, and we didn't paint anything, we didn't use crazy different, not crazy, but they didn't use like millions of different techniques. We literally just move things around, like just the reference already, and just like the outline basically. And from there, in the next episode we will be playing around with different techniques, because now that you can prepare the version that you really like, and we will paint it together. But for now, I wanted you to get the feel for it. And so next episode, so I think it's number 4, is where we're going to play around with techniques and colors, and just how can we use watercolor in a fun way. Because I love watercolor. I'm obsessed with it. I could talk about watercolor all day long, because it's just such a fun medium. And I know so many people are scared of it, or overwhelmed by it, or feel afraid of it, and afraid to fail, afraid that the painting won't turn out the way they wanted. That's why I wanted to create this short series to show you that it's not as difficult, it's not as it doesn't have to be so intimidating or difficult if you keep it simple, break it down into simple steps, start being more intentional, learn how to plan your painting, or even like how to use watercolor in the right way, which is what we'll talk about in the paint to paper challenge, like in depth. But for now, I want to just kind of like just invite you to see watercolor and painting as a creative process. It's not about the end result, it's always nice to have a painting where you feel like everything's amazing, but if you want this amazing painting in the end, we want to really start planning for it, and then we can play and let the painting emerge on its own. Because if you start and just randomly put paint to paper somehow and hope the reference painting will look like the reference, it will be stressful and won't be as satisfied with the result, because we just randomly did something and hoped it will look the same. But when we take the time and break it down into simple steps, and just being more intentional about where we place things, then maybe what techniques you want to use, in which order, what colors and things like that, we will get closer and closer to that version that we really envision. Because if it's like somewhere in the clouds, somewhere floating in our head, and we paint, then it's hard to know, is it what we wanted? Is it like, because it just feels like nothing tangible. We don't really know, is this what we wanted? I don't know. Because we just compare with the reference, and then we are not happy because it doesn't look like the reference. But it doesn't have to be. Like, we already have the reference, we already have the picture. So let's make it our own. Let's use the reference to inspire our painting and create our own version that is unique to us, because we decided this is the story I want to tell with this painting. This is the feeling I wanted to create in the viewer's eye, and the feeling that they experience when they look at the painting. And this is the only thing that we really can do, because we are the artists. We can create stories, we can create an environment, we can create a beautiful scene for others to experience, and they will see what we wanted to say or make them to see, but they can also create their own story in their head. So that's why we don't need to capture the whole reference perfectly, exactly, because we already have the reference, and the photographer already captured it in the way that they saw it. So now we capture it in the way we want others to see what we see. So it's basically we share the story through our own eyes. We let the next person see the painting or the reference the way we want them to see. Maybe because we like the colors, maybe we want to feel the warmth of the scene, maybe you want to invite them to stroll in the field or something like that. And this is where we get to be the creator of the story. And it all starts with just getting excited about it and putting intentional steps in place and planning ahead and just having fun, like telling a story. But then it's not like it's about copying the reference and hoping it will turn out the way it looks in the reference, but it's a completely unique end result, and we'll never know how it will turn out. Maybe it won't. Like all these elements that we talked about today, they are just like a map, a blueprint for us to, this is where we're going. It doesn't mean we need to stick to it like to the T. As we paint, we can decide, actually, this turned out better than I thought. Like, but like I said in the beginning, at least we know where we're going. We don't like randomly like panicking and don't know what's going on. You know, okay, this is the idea where we want to go to. But actually, as I was walking, I didn't realize this is so much better. It's like when you go on a walk or you want to go to travel. Yeah, you had like maybe this, you saved on Google Maps, this is where I'm going to go, this is what I want to see. And then you go there and you go to this place, but then you see, oh wait, this alley is like so pretty here. Like I didn't know, and you go there and you didn't even know like it's there because you didn't plan, you didn't know it's there. You just maybe put the pin in, I don't know, this street because there's a nice building with nice graffiti or something like that, but you didn't see that there's another alley that's beautiful, and maybe you met someone there and they told you something about you should visit this area, but at least you kind of like knew where you kind of like went, like you have an idea where you are in place. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson and learned a lot. Let me see here. Martina says, you are so great and explain all amazing and on the simple way. Thank you so much, Mako. You're welcome, Martina. And like I said, we have a lot of lessons on composition, color mixing, and like how to create your own paintings from scratch. And I can't cover it in a 10-minute video, and I couldn't cover it in 1 hour live stream, but I hope you got just 1 or 2 tips that you can already implement in your painting. And also make sure to download the free guides that I have linked in below this video. Color mixing, so to get ready, like I think this is super important and super helpful for you to learn about color mixing, because purple is like mixing green. Like sometimes you get muddiness, sometimes you get vibrant colors, and you want to have both of the worlds, and you want to know how to achieve both. So it's not like, again, randomly and hoping for the best. You know exactly what color to use and when for which result, and why you want this result as well. So make sure to download it. And also, if you want to learn more about watercolor supplies, because like I said in the very first episode, we want to set ourselves up for success, not only mentally, which is like actually the most important part of that, because our brain runs the whole show, and if you're not careful, it will run us into like crazy worlds. So we want to make sure we have the right mindset, but also we want to make sure we have the right tools, because if you have the wrong tools, it's so easy to think, I can't paint, it's difficult, watercolor is difficult, nothing works. I follow tutorials, but nothing works out the way it shows on this tutorial. Maybe I'm just not talented enough, and then before you know it, you quit watercolor again. So I don't want this to happen. So make sure to download the guide, and like even if you just learn about the importance of the supplies and even how to look for good supplies, I think you will already see the whole like difference, and also feel more confident in choosing the right supplies, because I believe the confidence really comes from understanding what you're doing. And to be able to understand what you're doing, you need to learn about like what the steps are, what's important, what to look out for, so you can make your own decision. So you're not relying on other people, and also not just hoping for the best, but you actually have a plan, you know what you're doing, and you know how to troubleshoot, and you learn to trust yourself because you have the skills to do it on your own, and also know like where you're going, how to tweak things, and just like be your own watercolor chef. Like I said, like sometimes when you know what you're doing, you kind of like, you can create your own meals. You know exactly what goes into the every meal. You're not just hoping for the best. You're just confident because you know what you're doing. It's not, like I said, randomly and hoping for the best. You can predict what's happening. You can trust yourself. You can trust that the result will be what you're hoping for, because you follow the steps that you know. So yeah. Kathy says, it's funny, but I always feel better with buildings on the right. Yeah, that's why it's such a fun thing to do. Like when you plan your painting and test out ideas, because everyone has different preferences, and different people see things differently and feel it differently. So for you, maybe maybe in this reference it makes more sense to put it in the right, because maybe it feels like you want the viewer to lead to the right side, like we kind of like when we read a book, we'll read from left to right, and so it's kind of like the movement is to the right, so maybe you feel more comfortable, or like just feels more, just feels more, what's the word for that, it makes more sense for you just like to move it to this direction. Maybe if you put it on the left side, it feels like it moves to the left, like I said, like sometimes it feels like you're leaving that place. So if you put it on the left, maybe it feels like you're passing it by, you go to the right, like on a train or something, or the car, and then the building goes to the left, and it feels like you're leaving. So thanks everyone for hanging out with me and following along and learning. And I know this was a lot, and I was trying to keep it condensed and short, but sometimes it's hard to do that, because sometimes there's like, you can also do this, and then you get be creative. That's what this fun part, like when you paint, when you create your own paintings, when you plan, and you not just feel, I have to plan, I just want to paint. You actually see it as it's an adventure, as a way to get creative without just focusing on just the painting. You get to have fun with it and explore all the different versions. And this is where when I start explaining, sometimes I get all these different ideas, because we could also move this and you can see that. And I really hope you are more excited about the whole painting process, and you don't skip this important part, because like I said, in the very beginning, this is one of the things that a lot of people skip, no matter how long they've been painting, because I know painting is the fun part, but the planning part can be as fun as the painting process as well, because you can create a whole story that is unique, and you can almost like throw away the reference and just really focus on your own version, and just keep the reference in mind, kind of like on the back of your head, just like, okay, purple, so you don't turn it maybe into you can also turn it into a poppy field as well, so you have all the freedom as the artist. So so next Thursday, I believe, we will play around with techniques and color mixing, and just putting a little color into our ideas. So you can test out multiple ideas for the lavender fields. You don't necessarily need the reference that I showed. You can keep it very simple and just play around like where you wanted to place it. Is it left, right, top, bottom? Do you have clouds? Do you don't have clouds? And next week we will talk about, okay, what colors will we need, maybe what techniques could be used to make it more fun and just like beautiful, like really let watercolor shine. And then the week after, we will actually put the whole painting together. And I can't wait to see all the different versions, because I hope you won't just copy what I'm doing or copying the reference, you will make it your own. And I can't wait to see that as well. So have a wonderful rest of your evening or morning, and I will see you very soon. Thanks everyone, it was super fun. Thanks for chatting and for following along, and I'll see you next week. Take care.